think that Bondi will face a lot of questions
Mm.
around whether or not this administration has been adequately transparent, and what potentially their motivations have been in not being as transparent as people would like. And I think most importantly, a lot of questions around President Trump
Mm.
and the extent to which he appears in the files, and if the administration did everything they could to be transparent also about him specifically.
The US Department of Justice is expected to release another 50,000 files linked to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, as in response to the Wall Street Journal investigation that found thousands of files were missing from the original tranche of documents that were released a few weeks ago. And the US Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has been subpoenaed as part of this investigation. Let's catch up with Sabrina Siddiqui, the national politics reporter at the Wall Street Journal. Hi to you, Sabrina.
Good to see you.
Hi. So another event, potentially a big one coming. What are you going to be looking out for, Sabrina, when these latest files are released in a great big bulk?
Well, I think it's notable because, these are tens of thousands of documents from the Epstein files that were withheld by the Justice Department, and they include FBI documents that detail a woman's unverified claims of sexual misconduct by President Trump. These files we're talking about that are now expected to be released have notes from an FBI investigation documenting a series of interviews that this woman gave to agents in 2019, in which she alleged that she was sexually be abused, that she was a victim of sexual misconduct by Jeffrey Epstein and Trump when she was a minor in the 1980s.
Mm.
Why this was withheld is not entirely clear, given in January when there was a batch of documents released by the Justice Department. They had similar witness statements with unverified claims. But they are going to now see the light of day, and we'll see how the White House responds. Obviously, they are saying that there is no truth to these claims, and the president has been cleared of wrongdoing.
Right, so we should then expect, Sabrina, some close scrutiny of the mentions of President Trump in these latest files, and some questions about why they were not released already.
Yes, and what the Justice Department has been saying is that they are trying to make sure that victims' concerns are addressed, and that they're redacting information that may be personally identifiable, that they're removing images of a sexual nature. But, one of the issues with that statement by the Justice Department is they came under a lot of criticism actually earlier this year because they had not actually appropriately redacted a lot of victim information.
Mm.
And if anything, it seemed more so the case that they had possibly redacted information pertaining to powerful or influential figures who were sort of implicated, in these files because of their ties to Epstein. So there's still a question around transparency here, and it certainly has political legs too, because this is one of the few issues where President Trump has actually lost support from his base, not necessarily because of the possible mentions of him in the files, but because of his administration's handling of this investigation and what even his own supporters see as a lack of transparency.
All right. And meanwhile, we're now going to be expecting to see the Attorney General, the President's Attorney General, Pam Bondi, giving evidence. And that could only happen after a vote across party lines in the scrutiny committee, though not many, didn't take that many Republicans to make that happen. What questions can she expect to face?
Well, I think that there is a lot of there are a lot of questions over the Justice Department's handling of this entire investigation. You've seen the administration at different points in time change its position on how much it's willing to release. Essentially, the administration was ultimately compelled to release these files because of the political pressure that they faced from members of both parties, from the public, from Congress. I think that there's going to be a lot of questions around, who potentially is the Justice Department trying to protect. What are they actually? I think what's been so revealing about the entire Epstein inquiry is that politicians, world leaders, celebrities, philanthropists, business executives. I mean, pretty much everyone from across the spectrum has been implicated in some shape or form, and it really shows you, among the wealthy and well-connected, not always direct involvement in Epstein's criminal misconduct, but at least a culture where he was enabled or people looked the other way. So I think that Bondi will face a lot of questions
Mm.
around whether or not this administration has been adequately transparent, and what potentially their motivations have been in not being as transparent as people would like. And I think most importantly, a lot of questions around President Trump
Mm.
and the extent to which he appears in the files, and if the administration did everything they could to be transparent also about him specifically.
And with the pressure that the Attorney General Pam Bondi is under, and the heat that she's, as it were, drawn on the White House, how secure is her position? Does she have President Trump's full backing?
Well, President Trump has supported Pam Bondi throughout this. I think one thing that has separated, there's been moments of frustration for sure. I think, one thing that we know from our reporting is that the president has repeatedly complained about Pam Bondi to his aides. He's called her weak and ineffective. That was like earlier this year and toward the end of last year. I would say it's a little bit less about the Epstein files. I mean, that's part of it, but more so the president has been frustrated that Pam Bondi, in his view, has not adequately gone after his critics and his political opponents, because he has obviously wanted to leverage the Justice Department to go after his political opponents, which is obviously, there's not, there are very serious questions around using the power of the presidency to go after your critics. So that's actually why he's been frustrated. But so far, he stood by her publicly. What separated, I was going to say, this administration from the first Trump administration is, you'll recall that in the first Trump administration, it seemed like someone was getting fired every other week. But this time, despite frustrations that Trump may have had with individual cabinet officials, he's largely kept his cabinet intact, and we really haven't seen that many high-profile firings. Will that change? I mean, I guess it also depends on Pam Bondi's performance when she testifies on Capitol Hill.
All right, more in this drama yet. Sabrina Siddiqui at the Wall Street Journal, thank you.